is Gary Wilson. Welcome to this week's live Path to Profit webinar, first one in 2018. I hope everybody had a wonderful either Kwanzaa, Christmas, Hanukkah season, and you got to spend time with your loved ones, particularly family and friends. I hope everybody took a little time off. I took 2 weeks for the first time. I can't even remember the last time I took 2 weeks. And actually did a little bit of work. I know I wasn't teaching classes, but I did keep up with some student calls and some emails and things like that. But I hope everybody's had a wonderful time, and you got to have enjoy a little bit of peace and tranquility in your lives, okay, and shared love with your loved ones. So I mean that sincerely, and welcome to 2018. Happy New Year. We've got a lot to cover. We have a couple requests for content to go over. The two top requests have been talking about wholesaling, which is what John and I were talking about the other day on our strategy call, and managing rentals. It just came up. It's come up a lot actually. Now, managing rentals has come up more and also earlier. So we'll do that tonight. Then next week we'll talk about wholesaling. Okay. So for all the new folks, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you are new, first off, welcome aboard. You are by default in mute mode. That's because we can all be on audio at the same time. However, use the question box to type in questions. From time to time, we will unmute you. We may do that tonight, in fact, and it's live, so everybody can hear everything. And it is unscripted and unfiltered. So you're going to get all the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it's a great way to learn. You're going to get the everything that has to do with the subject tonight. Okay. So a little bit of housekeeping. You do get the recording of this the very next day. Please remember to look at the email from Beverly that has the recording, because she also gives you further information, updates to the platforms, updates to the content. We are going to be going through in the first quarter a little bit of a facelift on the content. Okay, so just be aware of that. We'll keep you posted on schedule, timeframes, and so forth. There should be little or no impact to you, other than that everything's going to look a little bit differently. Also, we may in fact change Digital Chalk, which is the platform that all the training modules are on. So we'll keep you posted on all that. We won't do both at the same time, but we do have upgrades laid out for the year. So make sure you get the email from Beverly, you review it for updates. She also gives you the webinar schedule for the upcoming month. And also a little bit of an announcement here. Many of you have been asking for us to do a 3-day, like a convention. And we initially thought we would do that this past year in 2017. We just couldn't get it worked in. We just had too much to do already. We are going to, in fact, do it this year. In fact, we're doing it in March, and right now you can write these dates down. It's not confirmed, but it looks like it's going to be a sure thing. Friday, March 16th, Saturday, March 17th, and Sunday, March 18th in Orlando, Florida. So this is the kind of thing, guys, where you can bring your families if you want, okay? It's 2 weeks before Easter. It's also over St. Patrick's Day. So I'm not going to divulge any secrets here, but you can expect a little bit of a surprise on Saturday night, St. Patty's Day. Whether you're Irish or not, everybody's Irish on March 17th. Okay, so we got a little bit of a surprise there. More information to come about that. It's going to be an educational event, 3 days of just solid learning. So for those of you who want to come prepared to learn a lot. Okay, it's not going to be a boondoggle, although we're going to do some fun stuff. If you want to add time for Disney World and Universal, make sure you add it on to either the front end or the back end, because the 3 days we're together, we're going to be going really hitting it pretty strong. Okay. So in any case, I thought many of you would be glad to hear that. We've been talking about it now for 2 years, and we finally have laid down tracks, actually made deposits, and hired people to coordinate that professionally. It's going to be awesome, awesome event. So in any case, real quick, one more thing, and we'll get into the content. You can definitely type in your questions all you want. We will stay on as long as you need to. Generally, these last about an hour. Sometimes they go longer, okay, and that's okay. The point is we want to make sure we cover thoroughly what it is we do cover, all right? So let's go ahead and get started here, guys. I want to go ahead and jump into questions. Um, I know we have one from Ariana and one from John Giggy. So let's do Ariana's first because she emailed this, I think, yesterday. And Ariana's question is, when it comes to purchasing rentals, okay, and when you're looking at the areas, there absolutely is, there are certain ratios you want to follow as far as percentage of ownership and percentage of rentership, okay? So the question is when you're looking at Melissa data, okay, or if you're up in Canada, we have different tools we use up there. But regardless, so when you're looking at, say, planning commission websites, in every county, every municipality has one in US and Canada, and you get the ratios of homeownership and rentership, it's really important information to have when you or your clients are looking at rentals. So what I mean by that is this, I'll give you the specific answer. When you're looking at purchasing rentals, the sweet spot is, in terms of rentership, between 1/3 and 2/3 rentership, okay? Now let's just talk about it. Let's just give an example here. What does that mean? If you look at your planning commission websites, or you can even go to your Stats Canada or uscensus.gov, okay? And you can get the percentages of ownership or rentership in any tract, any census tract. We like to be in an area when we're buying rentals that are more than 1/3 rentership and less than 2/3 rentership. So between 1/3 and 2/3 rentership. Now, what that means by contrast is when we're looking at flipping, we want to be flipping in areas that are at least 2/3 home ownership, owner occupied. Okay. What that means is only flip in areas that have strong home ownership. More than 2/3 of the properties are lived in by the owners. Only 1/3 are have renters in there. Back to the rentership. So that means if you're looking at properties to rent, why would we not want to look at areas that have less than 1/3 rentership? Well, what that means is they have strong home ownership, and generally the pricing structure is such that while it may be a good area for flipping, the pricing you may be priced out of the market when it comes to rentals. In other words, the income of the rentals may not justify the cost basis. Okay, that's the mathematical reason why. All right, now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. We also said we want to be in an area that's no more than 2/3 rentership when we're buying rentals. And there are exceptions, which I'll go over here in a second. But first things first, why would we not want to be in an area that's more than 2/3 rentership? Well, if you think about areas that have a lot higher percentage of rentals, sometimes they're not the best areas, okay? And we don't want to be in the worst areas. We don't want to be in the best areas. We want to be in the areas that make the most sense for buying rentals, not just economically, but also in terms of physical conditions of the properties in the neighborhoods, the level of management required to manage those properties, okay? So when you're in an area that's 80-90% renter occupied, they're often tough areas to manage in. There just are. You're just not going to get the tenants that you want. You're not going to get the rents that you want, and it's going to be a lot more work to manage those properties. Now, here's the exceptions. If ever you can be around a hospital system or a university system, you would probably want to buy rentals in those areas for a number of reasons. Number one is they tend to have a great group of potential renters available in those marketplaces. Okay. Typically you can cater to graduate students, for example. You can in the case of university, you can also cater to nurses, medical students, interns, residents around the university systems. And a lot of times universities and colleges are joined together. Okay. You have learning hospitals, right? Tied to universities. So you get the best of both worlds. Now, what are some of the reasons? Well, one of the big reasons is this. Those two industries are relatively recession proof. Okay. Now there's no guarantees in any of this, but let's face it. People always get sick. People always need medical care. So if you're going to buy rentals around hospital systems, you're always going to have nurses and medical students and doctors and interns and residents and things like that to rent from you. And they generally are pretty good tenants, okay? Now let's talk about university. Why universities? Well, in a recession, would you say, and actually you can type in your answer here, in a recession, what would you say happens to enrollment in colleges and universities? So go ahead and type in your answer. Let's see. I know some of you, I know you know the answer because we've talked about it. But what would you say happens to enrollment in colleges and universities when a recession hits, when we're in a shift? And some of you you're absolutely right. Yeah, it goes up, absolutely goes up. So the funny thing is in a recession, you'd be amazed. There's other industries like the entertainment industry. What's funny is we've studied recessions and the Great Depression back almost 100 years ago now. It turns out people, in spite of how bad times may be and how tight money is, they will still pay to go to a movie and they'll still pay for a beer. Isn't that amazing? Okay, now we have a question here from Louis. Louis is asking, Louise, what is your ideal target cap rate? Good question, and the answer is depends. I don't want to sound like an attorney, but the reality is Louise, it varies from market to market. So prevailing cap rate in Toronto is going to be extremely low, like maybe 2-3% if you're lucky in certain neighborhoods. Same thing with San Francisco and other areas that are quite expensive. A cap rate in Flint, Michigan might be 15%. Flint, Michigan, many of you know, went through some tough times the last several years with their water systems. They had corrupted water systems. They were you couldn't drink the water. Property values dropped dramatically. Home ownership dropped dramatically, and rentership increased dramatically. Their percentages, that is. Now, just in the last year, the new administration has earmarked, I think, $100 million for Flint. So they're already on the mend. I actually just taught a class here. Matter of fact, some of you are from that market center. I just taught a class here the week after American Thanksgiving, and it's amazing that the market has already it's bottomed and it's on the way back up. Okay, so it's a great place to invest right now. So in any case, back to cap rate. It does depend, and it depends on the marketplace. So, Louise, you always have to study what is the prevailing cap rate for the area, and that gives you a benchmark to compare to when you're looking at rentals in that area. Okay, excellent question. So, Ariana, I hope that answers your question, and you can find that also in, I forget what module that's in. I know you're in the investor agent program. I believe it's in module 1 in investor agent. Okay, if you're in if any of you are in any of the other programs, the flipping program, the rental program, actually this will be in the rental material too. In fact, I'm going to give you guys a couple of books to get tonight that you can get for free from the website. So, John, I'm going to get to your question here in a second. I just want to make sure Ariana is squared away. Okay, good. All right, so Daryl's asking, how can a person find out what the prevailing cap rate is? It actually is quite easy, Daryl. You can just simply Google, cap rate for your area. You can also call your local apartment association, the association that property management companies belong to. They'll have that information. And also in your office, if you have a commercial presence there, they'll know what that is too, okay? So you can use, just in your office, you'll have somebody who has access to the information. You can also, there's other sources, but quite frankly, if you just Google it, you'll find it. And it does change, you want to keep up with that on a regular basis, okay? And by regular, I mean at least yearly, okay? Okay, let's go to John's question, and then we'll get into the content for tonight. So John Giggy, brand new from the Bay Area, East Bay, that is. Okay, what is the marketing strategy for letters, booklets, etc., month, yearly, weekly? Okay, so John, anytime we do a direct marketing campaign, whether it's the booklet, the letter, or any other direct mail piece, it's always a repeat of 12 times. You want to do it 12 times. Now, in most cases, that's once a month for 12 months. In the case of the booklet, for example, we always do that once a month for 12 months. Now, when someone responds to you, let's say after the second month, you no longer have to mail them anymore. They're now a prospect, okay? Now, with the letter, the frequency of the letter depends on its use. So, for example, if we're just sending the letter to drum up listings to people who own multi-units and not any particular duress or stress, you would send it once a month, okay? But let's say you're using the letter to drum up inventory from people who are in distress. You're sending it to people who are in bankruptcy, foreclosure, divorce, landlord or tenant cases like eviction, for example, probate, which is decedents, someone has passed away. In the beginning, you want to send that letter out more frequently. You want to be careful. For example, on the divorce one, I would send that weekly for a month, 4 times in a row, 4 weeks in a row, and then start to back off a little bit, okay? Probate, I would do that maybe bi-weekly, every other week for 2 months, for a rotation of four letters, one every 2 weeks, and then back off after that. Slow down, excuse me. I don't mean to say stop mailing, just the frequency would slow down. So you have to think of the situation that the owner is going through, the owner who you're sending the letter to. So that does vary. It's an excellent question, by the way. Okay, so let's do this, guys. I want to get into tonight's content. We had a lot of questions lately about rentals, buying rentals. Should I self-manage my rentals? Should I hire a property manager? What do I do? It's been coming up a lot. So we may actually revisit this maybe in the spring. Because some of you guys a lot of you are hot on the trail for picking up your own properties. And also this time of year, guys, this is a really important thing to write down. In the States, between January 1 and April 15th, the IRS gives people the opportunity to make certain financial moves, okay, that get applied to the prior year. In other words, you have up to April 15th to do certain things to improve your tax position for the year. In this case, by April 15th of 2018, you have an opportunity to do certain things, financially speaking, to improve your tax position for the year of 2017. And what happens is, in addition to that, a lot of people are doing their accounting. They're finalizing their bookkeeping. They're seeing what their position is, okay, financially. And if they want to make purchases, in the case of income producing assets, in other words, rental properties, it tends to be a little more active between January 1st and April 15th. So for those of you who are already well into your programs, if you're not yet marketing, you should be marketing like ASAP, okay? Take advantage of this 3.5 month window of opportunity. Investors are always investing. What I'm saying is there's a unique opportunity to get a few more deals under your belt during these next 3.5 months. In any case, back to managing rentals. This is a specific question we're going to address tonight. And I'm going to go into the book that's Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits. So let me show you where that is. You can see if you go to myinvestmentservices.com, obviously, click on members area. All right. Sorry, click on members area. There we go. Sorry about that. Then click on silver level. Okay. And go down to here where it says Premier eBooks, right here, Premier eBooks. Okay. All these books are available to you for free, the electronic version. Okay. Investor Agent, Flipping for Profit, Rental Profits Without the Pain, Wholesaling So Everybody Wins, Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits. What we're going to focus on tonight is this one, Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits. This is all about managing properties, okay? The related book would obviously be Rental Profits Without the Pain. This is acquiring the rental properties, all right? And this one is managing the rental properties, okay? Two distinct sets of skills and talent and aptitude and information, okay? And these are yours for free. As members, you can get these for free, guys, okay? You don't have to pay for them. I mean, if you get a physical version, yes, they're going to charge you something nominal, $5 or $10 or something like that, because there is cost associated with that. Amazon also charges whatever it is, $3.95, something like that. But it's not like a profit center. Some people just like to hold the book in their hands, like me. In any case, let's go back to where we were. Now you know where to get the books, right here. Okay. What we're going to do is dig into turning rental problems into real estate profits. Okay. And we're going to go past the introduction section, go right to here, getting started managing your rental. So I'm going to go over this in highlight fashion. Okay. I think it was Joshua that asked for this last. I think his email came in today. So first things first, guys, is it's all about systems. Doesn't necessarily mean computer systems and software systems, but for everything you do, when you have rentals and you're managing your own or you're managing for other people, you need to have systems in place for every process. Maintenance calls coming in, receiving rent checks, returning deposits, doing inspections, leasing rentals, advertising rentals, all of those individual pieces and parts or components of managing rentals has its own unique set of processes and procedures. Those are the things you want to systematize, okay? So in any case, that I'm not going to read all this word for word. I want you to take notes on this and think about this, right? You need to systematize. Now, when it comes to software, there are some great programs out there for property management. One of them is the one I like, the one I used, I purchased and used, PropertyWare Property Management System. And I'm not, just a little bit of disclosure here, I don't work for them. I don't get anything from mentioning them. I can just tell you from experience, at least the last check, they're still the Cadillac of property management software systems. Now, a little bit expensive, but just like anything else in life, you get what you pay for, right? Nothing, if you get something, just remember, you're only going to get so much for free before you generally start having to invest. And this is one of those times you can do a lot for free initially on your own, but eventually you're going to invest. And if you're going to invest, I suggest you invest in this PropertyWare property management system. Okay. By the way, QuickBooks Pro is another awesome tool. That's great if you're just starting out. If you're just starting out and you just have a handful of units, just get QuickBooks, the basic version. Later on, you can upgrade the Pro, and you may, in fact, just decide to stick with QuickBooks Pro. I did QuickBooks Pro for years, all right, before I switched to PropertyWare. But when you get into hundreds of units, you definitely need something like PropertyWare. It's an awesome, awesome system. You can Google it, check it out, and see what you think. Okay, now, a couple of things you need to think about here are marketing, advertising, bookkeeping, managing, maintenance and repairs, screening tenants, which is a biggie. We're going to talk about that next. Okay. Leasing, which is taking care of your vacancies, evictions, turnovers, what happens when people leave. Okay. Capital improvements. Not every piece of work you do to a property is basic maintenance and repairs. Some of those improvements are like new roofs, new doors, new windows that are considered capital improvements, right? What about buying and selling the properties? What about networking and public relations? All these things can be systematized, right? So first things first, let's just start with day one. If you're going to manage properties for yourself or for others, just like when you buy the property, you want to focus on where you're going to be managing. So in other words, let's say some of you are managing properties for others, and I know some of you already are. Be selective. Don't just take any old property to manage, okay? Some of those properties may not be in areas you want to operate in. In fact, if you think of it this way, if you follow the programs correctly, you only be investing in certain areas. Like we just spoke about a moment ago, that the 1/3, 2/3 ratio, those are going to be your middle of the road areas. They're not going to be upper middle class. They're going to be probably middle class, lower middle class. Lower B or upper C areas, but not the lower C areas. Lower C being, a lot of subsidized housing. The neighborhoods have, cars up on blocks, houses boarded up, things like that. We do not advocate those areas. I know people invest in those areas. I've done it. It's just, you'll make more money investing in the areas we described. In any case, when it comes to managing, you want to manage in the same areas, okay? So what you learn in one program, you can apply. It's very adaptable to another program in this case, right? So just like it says here, you want to make sure if you're managing in residential properties, that you don't want to own properties, and nor should you manage properties that are around industrial, retail, agricultural areas, okay? You want to be managing properties, in the case of residential properties, that are in residential areas, right? Any case, area is very, very important because if you're going to be managing rentals, you're going to be in those areas, you know, and I don't know how frequently, but just know that you're going to be going out there from time to time, right? You or somebody who works for you, right? In any case, you can read all the details on your own, but here's what I want to really get to, guys. Screening is where the business is won or lost, okay? There's just no other way to put it. Of all the things I can teach you and all the things I can write about, when it comes to owning and managing rentals, the most important thing is screening the prospective tenants. Boy, I tell you what, I would rather, knowing what I know, I would rather have a vacancy for 1 or 2 months before I would rent to a bad tenant, because a bad tenant may miss a month's rent. They may skip out on you because they're behind on the rent, and not only not pay the rent, but also leave stuff in the apartment, their own personal belongings. And I mean, I've had stories I've seen. Matter of fact, we were discussing this today in class. Literally feces on the carpet, just stuff like that. Just clothes, people are leaving furniture. You know, the point is this: you can avoid all that through proper screening. Okay, this is one of the biggest areas I've seen people make mistakes and, quite frankly, lose their shirts, is because they don't want a vacancy. They would rather just put somebody in there who shows up with a wad of cash. Okay, screening is absolutely critically important. And if you want to read the book, you'll get a lot more information on screening. One of the tools you can use, by the way, is called National Tenant Network. A great screening business. You pay them a fee, and they do the screening. They screen for public records, which is to see if somebody's been arrested before. They screen for credit. They screen for job history. And they also screen for what's called domicile history. In other words, where have they lived? Okay. And there's a whole process behind that. There's more about it that the screening process in the book. And if you take that training program, every year we launch these once a year. I think we're doing property management in April, if I'm not mistaken. So those of you who are interested in property management, you'll have an opportunity in April to sign up for that program. Now, just remember, if you're a current student, it's you don't have to pay full price; it's half price. But what we don't advocate is you taking 3 and 4 programs at the same time. At the most you should do is maybe 2 programs at once. So we only roll these out really once a year, right? In any case, a lot more detail in the program. I mean, a lot more detail, right? So, in any case, another area is marketing and advertising. Okay, now 2 different disciplines. Marketing and advertising are 2 different disciplines. Also, when it comes to marketing and advertising, in the world of rental business, you would market and advertise the rental business itself to prospective owners to pick up new clients. And when it comes to vacant units, you would also market and advertise those vacant units. But it's another area that you'll need to learn and focus on. And if and when you do a good job, you'll be able to attract better owners of better properties, and you'll be able to attract better tenants to those properties. Okay, your marketing, it's like you can actually predetermine who's going to respond to your marketing based on how you market, the media that you market in, and the language patterns that you use. Okay, now one of my favorite ways to pick up good tenants, and I'm not going to touch a lot of detail here. I'm just going to show you what's in here so you can determine what you need to focus on and get the book and focus on it. But one of the best techniques I ever had for filling vacancies is a good old-fashioned tenant referral program. If I have good tenants and I have a vacancy in an area where I have good tenants, like a 4-unit building or whatever 30-unit building, I'm going to always offer as an incentive to my better tenants, the ones who have the best record for paint. And by the way, all this has to be documented and disclosed, how you determine who participates in the referral program, all right? Because you don't want to be accused of discriminating. You set the rules right up front. We give it to them right when they sign a lease and say, look, if you want to make more money, here's a referral program you can be involved in. You have to be a tenant in good standing. You have to pay your rent on time. the people who qualify are the people with the fewer nuisance calls and things like that. But in any case, what I'm getting to is we offer them a reward for bringing in other prospective good tenants. In fact, we give them sometimes $50, sometimes a gift certificate, sometimes a rebate. There are certain rules about this stuff. You just have to follow the rules. But what I'm getting at is, what better source of new tenants than existing tenants who are interested in who's going to be living in the building with them? Okay, so I just want to focus on that because of all the different ways you can market and advertise, turns out this tenant referral program is one of the best. Hands down for us, it's meant a lot of good business. Okay. In any case, you can market and advertise in a lot of different media. You can advertise at local colleges. I mean, some of you don't want college students, some of you do. I personally like college students. I focus on the grad students, not the undergrads. The freshmen are still trying to figure out how do they drink all that beer, and the grad students are a little bit more serious about their studying. Craigslist, Kijiji, if you're up in Canada, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. These are all things you can do to focus your marketing and advertising. And by the way, remember this, always use social media responsibly, because if you don't, just like it says right here, oops, sorry, let me go back here. Let's go back to where I was. Here we go, almost there. All right. Use it responsibly, because if you don't, you'll be shunned, unfriended, unliked, unconnected, and unsuccessful. Okay. Social media is a touchy thing. You can do well with it, or you could basically create headaches for yourself, right? Any case, advertising in your local church, grocery store, restaurants. Okay, and in fact, the restaurants, let me just touch on that for a second. With restaurants, what we can do sometimes is offer to a new tenant who came in through referral a dinner or something at a local restaurant, free dessert, or buy one dinner, get one free, whatever the case is. You have to work with the local restaurant ahead of time and get some coupons made up. And the restaurateur generally likes these deals because they get new clients coming in. All right. And you also reward the person who referred the person to you. So everybody wins. The restaurateur wins, the referring tenant wins, the referred tenant wins. Local publications, I generally like the small local publications better than the large publications. We do not advertise in the major publications in the big cities, like the New York Times, Baltimore Sun. We don't advertise in those papers. What we do advertise in are the small local papers. They're generally a lot less expensive, and you get much higher callback rates. Okay, and you want to advertise for a couple of weeks, by the way. In any case, that's marketing and advertising. Now, when people respond to ads, this begins the screening process. All right. You need to basically first take all the calls and screen them. All right. Take notes, and then later on when you call people back, you'll have notes on them from the messages they left you. Okay. You can also prioritize them. As far as who you want to call back first, second, and third, there's no law that says you can't call somebody first or somebody second or somebody third, but just use your common sense and your business sense. Okay. Showing rentals. I'll give you a quick tip here. We generally do not show rentals on any given day, any time of day, based on consumer demand. One of the best things you can do is always have showings on a Saturday, usually in the morning between 9 and noon. If you have a busy day with several vacancies, you can show them, up till 4 or 5 in the afternoon if you wish. But what we do is we do it sort of like a showing. What I mean by that is we'll tell everybody that we speak to, we're showing the apartment on Saturday from 9 to noon. Here's your time slot. And we would assign them a time slot, 9, 9:15, 9:30. The larger the unit, the lengthier the time frames. The smaller the unit, the shorter the time frames. Okay. Now what will happen is some people will be early, some people will be late. There'll be some overlap. A little bit of that's okay. What it does is two things. The benefits to you are, number one, you're not going out there every time somebody wants to see the apartment, which, by the way, is a risky thing to do. You would never go show an apartment by yourself at night, for example, male or female, okay? You show them on one chunk of time, you only make one trip to the property, show everybody, maybe 10, 12 people, the same property all in a 3-hour time frame. Now they all get a little bit of time to themselves if they're on time, typically. But don't worry if there is overlap or people showing up early, people showing up late. Because when they see other people there, what it does is it creates a sense of urgency. And what you do is you take all your applications that day, okay? Anybody who wants to fill an application, you generally have to let them fill an application, okay? In any case, I'm getting too deep into detail there. This is stuff you can read on your own. I just want to give you some highlights, some really important tips that have been developed over the years that you can copy, okay? How do you like that one, by the way? Oh, well, here, big red flag. Yeah, be aware of anybody that shows up with a wad of cash, okay? Section 8, over the years, I've had more and more people shy away from Section 8. Used to be a great program. I used to be part of it. And what happened is Section 8 several years ago started lowering the rates on single family homes and raising the rates on apartments to a degree. But more importantly, they started removing ownership rights. Okay, they started leaning more towards tenants when it comes to rights, property rights. And that's when I drew the line. I said, nope, I'm the owner. I have most of the rights. The only right I give up is the right of possession. Well, they don't see it that way. In any case, make your own decisions when it comes to Section 8. If you like the steady income, more power to you. If you want more control, then I suggest you don't do the program, okay? You're going to give up control with Section 8 is what I'm getting at, all right? But again, for a while there, in some areas it may be great. At least for me, I was able to help a lot of Section 8 tenants become homeowners through the Section 8 homeownership program. So it does have its place, all right? In any case, let's go over a few more things here, and we're going to take some questions. Oh, by the way, one of my best tenants, some of my best tenants, in fact, have been Section 8 tenants. Okay, so I'll give you a plug there. How about that? All right, charitable organizations. I learned to really like working with them. The reason is there are situations where sometimes people just need to fish. Okay, we want to always focus on teaching people how to fish so that they can feed themselves for a lifetime. But the reality is sometimes people just need help at that moment, and then they'll be better suited to teach down the road. So this is why charitable organizations have a place in our society. They'll step in, they'll provide immediate assistance to some people who need immediate assistance. Maybe they lost a job, maybe there was an injury, maybe they fell ill, death in the family, all kinds of things happen. When those things happen, it doesn't mean that you have to choose between being a good business person, a profitable business person, and a compassionate human being. You can be both. And charitable organizations sometimes allow you to do that. And if you do a good job with your properties, a lot of times they're looking to place people who like battered women with children is an example. Refugees is an example. I've learned to open up my heart and mind and my arms to those people over the years with great success. You still screen them. And see, this doesn't mean you don't screen them, guys. This is just how they're getting the initial deposit and perhaps first month's rent. It doesn't mean they're not going to be responsible going forward. I don't advocate carte blanche, just giving them the money and turn your eye the other way. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is temporary help to get them back on their feet. And so you still have to screen them, look at their history, everything. Use NTN, National Tenant Network, to look for, credit history, job history, public record history, and domicile history. All right, treat them just like everybody else. Do not treat them differently. All right. In any case, charitable organizations. I've actually had entire buildings, 70, 80 units that we've turned over to be available for refugee families from Burma and Nepal. And these are folks escaping, dangerous situations in their home countries. However, they are coming through legally. They're coming through the immigration process legally. We don't advocate, people just coming over carte blanche with no documentation. That's not what we advocate. If they're coming through organizations like Jewish Community Center, Catholic Charities, they're generally going through a formal process. It's an expedited process, but it is a formal process. Okay. So in any case, I want to move on and cover a few more things, and then we're going to stop and take some questions. Okay. The lease, just briefly, I'll tell you this. You should always use the lease that's been approved by your board of realtors, whether you're an agent or not. So Billy, if you're using your own leases, I know you have property management in Jacksonville and up in Cleveland. If you were to manage your own, always use whatever the board form is for that state. And the reason is and the same thing in the Canadian provinces, because those forms have been pre-approved by the court systems. Okay. And so if you go to court because you have to evict somebody and you have one of these leases, you're going to be okay. If you don't, if you have a lease that's like you got off the internet, it, number one, may not meet the plain language laws. Okay. And number two is any judge in most cases can say, well, I'm not going to honor that lease. It's not one that was pre-approved by the board and pre-approved by the courts. Okay. So just be aware of that. So just, and I want to emphasize that because there's a lot of other programs out there that just say, here, use our lease. It may or may not be good. Why take a chance? Just use the one that's already been pre-approved in your state or province. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you have to stick with that carte blanche. You can add your own rules and regulations. In fact, I'm going to show you some rules and regulations here. You can, and this is in your material, by the way. You can get this right out of the book, cut it and paste it, or if you're in the program, if you're in the property management program, everything's given to the original Word format. But when you add rules and regulations, as long as they don't conflict with federal, provincial, or state and or local laws, you should be okay. Okay. So in other words, we have rules on use and occupancy, illegal drugs, firearms, assignment and sublease, altering the unit, plumbing. So when people clog toilets, guess what? We hold them accountable because we rented the apartment to the person. The plumbing work, the sinks drain, the toilet drain, the tub drain. If they clog them up, they got to unclog them or pay to have it done. Okay. We talk about water beds, pets. I'll talk about pets for a little bit if I have more time. Kind of an interesting subject. Okay. Hazardous material, locks, keys. Absolutely. They can't change the locks. Hazardous conditions, local, county, state, provincial laws, cleanliness, rodents, insects, pests, noise. That's a big one. Upkeep of grounds, garbage, and utilities. Okay. So in any case, you can always, so what I'm getting at is you can add your own rules and regulations to further customize a lease. All right. All right. Security deposits. This is a biggie, guys. In most states and provinces, and by the way, there is a database you can access to get the specific rules for every state and province. In most states and provinces, you have within 30 days of a tenant leaving, you have 30 days to send them a letter explaining why you kept some of the deposit, if you kept any of it, and also whatever deposit is you are returning. Okay. Some states it's 45 days. Okay. Now, in the beginning, just go back to the beginning of a lease when you first accept a deposit. You should put this in a separate account. In other words, your security deposit should be kept in a separate account, separate from your operations account. You have one checking account that you're using to pay bills. Okay. You're generally putting in there your rents are going in, your expenses are going out. Okay. Security deposits go in a completely separate account. And that account is going to have an accompanying account register, basically a log of activity. And every deposit needs to be individually itemized, every security deposit. Now, if a person has been renting from you for 2 or more years, and this is generally the case in most locations, okay, you'll have to look up your own particular state or province to see if they're different from what I'm going to describe here. At the expiration of 2 years of tenancy, you have to begin accruing interest on that account. Let's say you're in an interest-bearing account that's paying 0.01%. You have to accrue that interest and you have to account for it. So every year you give them a statement saying, here's the accrued interest on your deposit. And you have to pay that out when they do move. So let's say they move at the end of the 3rd year, you would owe them 1 month's interest. 1 year's interest. You don't owe it for the first 2 years, but you do after the 2nd year. Okay. Another thing that's kind of unique is a lot of states and provinces enforce this is you can increase the security amount during the first 5 years of tenancy, okay? Because things go up, expenses go up, rents go up, so you can increase the amount of deposit that they need to have on account. But in most cases, you can only do that for the first 5 years. If they've been there more than 5 years, you're generally not allowed to raise security deposit anymore. Let's face it, if they've been there for 5 years, you probably want to keep them anyways, right? Okay. I've seen more trouble arise as a result of the mishandling of security deposits than I've seen in anything else in my 32 years of being in this business. You definitely want to study your state's security deposit rules. You can Google it and download that. By the way, we are going to be loading that on the website this year. We've been collecting all the information for every state and province, and we're going to load that online for you guys by the end of the year. I don't have the time frame on that one, but you're going to have access to all that. So, in any case, in the meantime, read this and go check out your own specific state or province rules. Okay, for security deposits. All right, I think there's only one or two more things. I hear this, pets, my favorite subject. When I first got into the rental business, I had a no pet policy. Guess what I found out? Even though I had a no pet policy, I had pets. Because what happens is people forget about your no pet policy, and the new boyfriend gets his girlfriend a brand new little kitty cat. The girl's renting from you, and she just doesn't. She's not thinking, okay, am I allowed to have pets? Am I not allowed to have pets? So they have pets. Okay. So what I started doing is I started having a pet policy that actually allowed pets. I turned it into a profit center. I advertised it, and what it did is it attracted good pet owners and repelled bad pet owners. I collected more rent in the case of pet owners, and I collected more security deposit in the case of pet owners. Now remember, there's one exception here. If a person has a service dog, and now people can apparently have service animals, service dogs, service cats, service whatever, that could be construed as discrimination if you charge extra deposit or extra rent for that service dog. Okay, just be aware of that. In any case, turns out I made more money because all those pet owners who were good pet owners expected to pay more rent and expected to pay more security deposit, and it repelled the bad ones. So I had more income coming in and fewer problems with damaged carpet, for example. So I ended up making it a profit center. In fact, the building that my wife lives in London, Ontario, is a high-end luxury apartment building, and they allow pets. And guess why? They charge a good bit of money for every single pet and extra deposit. And they're smart. They understand it's a profit center, just like I figured out years before. In any case, kind of an interesting subject. I will tell you, I also charge more for smokers. If they're going to come in and smoke I don't want them smoking in the apartment. But if they are smokers, I'll tell them they have an option here. They can pay me more rent, and I'll let them smoke in the apartment, or they can pay me a much higher security deposit if they say that they're never going to smoke in the apartment. I don't believe them, because if it's 20 below zero and blowing snow, believe me, people were going to smoke inside the apartment. So I basically made it another profit center. Is what I did, is what I'm getting at. Okay. Any case, I think I'm going to go ahead and let's talk about protected classes. Just remember, at the federal level, there are protected classes, people that you cannot discriminate against certain classes of people. Those rules are applied at the state or provincial level, and states and provinces can add to the federal regulations. They can't take away from it, but they can add to it. Okay. In other words, your state, for example, may have added additional protected classes to the list of people that you can't discriminate against. So just be aware of that. And I just want to make sure when you think about protected classes, let's just take handicap, for example. Matter of fact, it's right up here. I learned a long time ago that there are agencies out there that will subsidize handicapped tenants. They'll pay their rents. They'll help make security deposits, and more importantly, they'll also pay for bringing a unit to be ADA compliant. Right. So here's the interesting thing: ADA compliant rental units in some parts of the North America can command up to 3 times prevailing rents. So let's say you have a unit that's bringing in $1,000 a month, and you have an opportunity to make it an ADA compliant unit. You may be able to get as much as $3,000 a month for that unit. That's maximum, but we've seen that around North America. The interesting thing is you don't have to pay for the remodeling. ADA, through the tenant, has you sign a document saying you grant them the right to modify your unit. And when that tenant does move, they actually will remove all the modifications if you want them to. I highly suggest you let them keep the modifications, and you can rent to the next person who needs ADA compliant unit. Okay. So just remember, for everything in the world, guys, there's always the good and the bad. I highly encourage you to focus on the good. Don't ignore the bad, but if you find yourself focusing on the bad, train yourself to say, okay, for every bad thing, I'm gonna make myself aware of one good thing. And ADA compliant properties is one of those examples. Okay, so in any case, I'm going to kind of stop at this point before we get into maintenance and repairs and capital improvements, because I know we probably got a lot of questions. So let me go back to the questions here. Let's see, Ariana. Okay, what is your ideal? Okay, cap rate. We talked about that. Let's see. We may be okay on quite. Okay, let's see, Daryl. How can a person find out what the prevailing cap rate is? Okay, we covered that. Don't worry, we can chat next week on a strategy call. That's John Giggy. Okay, no problem. Let's see. Can the rental property report be used for summer rentals only, daily, weekly, monthly? Yes. So Gabriella, when it comes to vacation areas, okay, there's so much. There's a lot that varies. In other words, if you have a vacation rental down in South Florida, okay, that's going to be a year-round rental. However, if you have a vacation rental in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, one of my favorite places, it's only going to be good through June, July, and August. It's going to be empty for the rest of the year. Okay, so if you're doing weekly rentals or you're doing Airbnb, which has been a real hot subject lately, just remember that there's a whole different set of rules for that. And for your area, you're asking here about summer rentals, only daily, weekly, monthly. It's going to vary area by area. So ski resorts, for example, now some of them are not 4 seasons. Some of them are just open during the ski season. Obviously, that's a seasonal thing. So the rules are going to vary. The ones that are 4 season, they may be 4 season, but it's going to have different tenancy levels. I generally don't do vacation rentals because of the volatility. Look at what happens when a hurricane blows through Florida, or the Gulf of Mexico, or the East Coast. Okay, sadly in California we've been experiencing a lot of fires. I have family up in the North Bay area, up in the wine country, and we've got a lot of colleagues in and around LA going up into the hills. Okay, who've been suffering a lot from fires. So just so many variables, and insurance is different. The one thing that's an advantage, Gabriella, with vacation rentals is generally the landlord-tenant laws are more in favor of the owner, far more in favor of the owner. And if you're good at timing things, you're good at speculating, you can make a lot of money. So, for example, back in the Great Recession, we were gobbling up properties on Hilton Head and Myrtle Beach like crazy. We were able to get ocean view 2-bedroom, townhomes for $100,000 or less. It was just amazing, but it's speculative, So in any case, we keep those properties, we rent them out. We do a hybrid approach, Gabriel. What we do is during the peak seasons, we rent them out weekly. During the off seasons, we rent them to like teachers and things like that on a long-term basis, okay? Or do our B&B, right? So Airbnb, excuse me. All right, so are there limitations if home is purchased as a second home and used for owner's enjoyment according to mortgage company? It depends. So you want to talk to your insurance company, Gabriella. You also want to talk to the realtor in the area where you bought the property, because they may in fact have limitations on renting your second home. Now, in most cases, if you're going to use a property management company, and you're going to use that property as a second home, and you're going to claim expenses and things like that for renters, you have to have it rented out a percentage of time. And your property management company is going to know this based on whatever area you're in. In other words, you can't keep it off the market but for so long for your own personal use. You can only have it for your own personal use certain periods of time, and you've got to have it rented a certain period of time to get all the benefits from doing that. Okay, so just be aware. You should check with your local property management company, whatever state or province you're in, and they can tell you what those rules are. Good question, by the way. Okay, that is a great idea. Joshua was saying that is a great idea. I have a couple of new units that are further away for this group I just joined with. Oh, perfect. I'm glad that helps, Joshua. Okay, let's see. This is from Don. Hey, Don, how you doing, buddy? All right, Don is asking, okay, I'm a real estate broker and would like to get more information on marketing to investors. I'm looking for more listings, need to build capital first in order to invest in my own rentals. So Don, if you want to, I'm assuming you're in the silver level membership area. I just don't know. I don't recall which program you're in, but what you're asking for is available in the investor agent training program. So if you want to, you can email me, Gary at myinvestmentservices.com or Beverly at myinvestmentservices.com. Okay, and we can send you information on that if you're not already in that program. All right. So Don, we'll get you, and some of the information we can give you, we'll just give it to you for free so you can kind of see what it is you're looking at and make a more informed decision that way. But yes, this absolutely will position you to get more income coming in so you can build up capital to buy your own properties. Okay, Daryl's asking, when you add your own rules, do you put it in as an addendum to the, yes, you do. So you put it in as an addendum to the lease, Daryl, and in the lease, you put in there the body of the lease, refer to addendum A for rules and regulations, and you have them signed, everything. Okay, Don Mitchell was asking also, where can I find the pre-written books? So Don, if you go to the myinvestmentservices.com, you must have tapped in late. Go to myinvestmentservices.com. Let me just go back there. Okay. Click on the members area. All right, which I'm doing now. In there, click on silver level membership area. Go down to Premier eBooks. As a student or a current member, you get those for free. Regardless of who you are, everybody gets these for free, the free ebooks. But the premier ones are the ones that have the content that we went over tonight. And all 5 books are there. You know, Investor Agent, Flipping for Profits, rental profits without the pain, wholesaling so everybody wins, and turning rental problems into real estate profits. That's all there for you, Don, on the website in this silver level membership area. Okay, I got Gabriella's Virginia Beach Borough. Okay, so you're down there. You know what, Gabrielle? I'm pretty familiar with that area because I used to live there and did a lot of investing there. Actually went to college here. Send me what you have. If you want to set up a strategy call, just set up a strategy call, and I can get far more specific with you. I want to make sure I give you good information. Also, one of my best friends happens to be, one time he was the captain of the Beach precinct. He's a police captain, and now he's at the headquarters for all 5 precincts. He's pretty high up there. Okay. Any case, we can get any information you want, Gabriella, in the area. Right. Okay. This is from. Let's see, who's this from? Billy Maloney. Okay, Billy, this is a pretty long one here, so let me go back to the beginning. Okay, off topic. If you have time, I have a single family in Parma Heights, paid $67,000 for it, put $20,000, including new roof and furnace. I have been having trouble renting it. One major thing is that it missed is the tenants seem to really want a basement. Everyone who checks it out asked for, um, does it have a basement? It does not. No basement is not something I can fix. I expected to get close to 1,100 a rent from. It's listed at 995 now. It's been 4 months. Granted, the holiday and the winter has slowed things down. Looking like I'm going to have to go down to 900 if I really want to get someone in there. My cash on cash would only be 6% of 900, so I listed it for sale to see interest. Do you think it would make sense to just rent it for 900 with the low return, or sell it and put the cash in another property that makes a more favorable return? No mortgage on the property yet. At least the education I got on this property is invaluable. Okay, so Billy, a couple things. You definitely never want to try to rent something between American Thanksgiving and Christmas. You're just not going to get a good selection of tenants. What I would do is, if you haven't already, pull it off the market right now. Pull it off the market, and next week put it back on the market. Okay, put it back on the market. Don't lower the rent. You can sometimes pick up some good tenants in January. It's always more difficult to rent generally in the winter months. But in particular, between Thanksgiving and Christmas is a bad time to try to rent one. But if you can manage to keep it off the market for a week, I would strongly encourage you to do that. Then put it back on the market for maybe $9.95. Okay. I know you wanted 11, but without a basement, in your area, basements are pretty much expected. Okay. So that would be my recommendation. I don't know that I would try to sell it right now, only because if you sell it empty, it's going to be a little bit tougher. Also, if you sell it with someone in there with lower rent, it's going to have a lower perceived value. So just be aware of that, Billy. If you rent it for lower money and you go to sell it, it's going to have a lower perceived value because of the lower rental in there. All right. In any case, that's my thoughts on that. So let's see. There's another question here. Let's see. I would sell to owners, not investors. So if you sell to owners, you would want to have it empty then. You don't want to have anybody living in there. But just make sure it's spick and span. Okay. So that is another option. Just pull it off the rental market, put it out there for sale, and keep it empty. It just may be a little bit tougher right now because of all this bad, crazy weather. I think after next week, this whatever is affecting the basically the eastern seaboard is going to clear, and you'll have more people out and about. So hopefully that'll help. Okay, guys, that's actually the end of the questions. I appreciate your participation tonight. Next week, we will talk about wholesaling, and then we'll probably have a special guest coming up here. I don't know who that is yet. I've been putting some feelers out. If you have recommendations, let me know. Also, anything you want to discuss, please let me know via email. We can bring it up on these webinars. It says this is your opportunity to dig deep into whatever subject you want to dig deep into. So thanks again, guys, for participating. God bless you all and your families. I look forward to a prosperous 2018 for everyone here. Just give me your best, 1 or 2 hours a week. That's all I ask. And we're going to get you into the profit zone. Okay. So have a good night, and we will talk to you next Tuesday on the 9th. Okay. Good night and God bless. Bye-bye.